Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living Greater Pittsburgh, and this is my talk today on I Am Enough. I began to come up with this talk by listening to audiobook to Brene Brown's book on vulnerability, and then her book called Daring Greatly. She's a PhD in social work, and she specializes in shame research. An amazing woman. I'm sure you probably most have heard about her. And she's known, I think, gained fame through her TED Talk in Phoenix, and an amazing transformation that has occurred since then. So, uh, there were multiple titles I could have used for this book. Vulnerability is a good one, but I Am Enough is what I chose because it best conveyed the message that I need to get every day, and that's the message that I have everything that I need to thrive in this lifetime, right where I am, right? Because it could be nowhere else, as Ernest Holmes says. The keys to the kingdom of heaven have already been given. They are simply waiting our conscious recognition of them. And Abraham Hicks would say, all I could ever desire is right in front of me, right where I am. My daily work is to become a vibrational match with my desire. The universe can only give me what I am capable of receiving and lining up with vibrationally, right? So today I choose to know I am enough, to accept myself as worthy of thriving in every area of my life. And to do this, I will face uncertainty. I'll be forced to take risks, be emotionally exposed, and be willing to fail and fall flat on my face, and yet still be willing to pick myself up, dust myself off, and start over again. Today, I choose to know that through my experience, I am enough and I have enough. Enough courage, enough willingness, enough love, enough intelligence, creativity, resilience, enough faith to put myself out there beyond my comfort zone into the unknown, um, to go where new opportunities to face my own fears and shortcomings and grow beyond them. Alan Watts says, to know I don't know is the best thing I could ever know. And on this particular topic of shame resilience and I am enough, sure, I have a lot of experience from my own life, but I will be the first to admit right now that I really don't know. But I also realize that I don't have to know. And and to realize that I don't have to know is evidence of my faith in God, my faith in higher power, my faith in the universe to provide everything that I need exactly when I need it to move seamlessly through life. Albert Einstein says the measure of intelligence is the ability to change. And this talk is all about change. So now this is where it starts to get messy. And yeah, so a little different talk than what I've given before. It's not as much off the cuff, but there's just so much I got out of the book Vulnerability and the book Daring Greatly. So I'm going to try and share as much of that as I can with you in the next few minutes here. So this has been a hard subject to research and to write about because it really hits home. It seems we have a national conversation centered on what should I fear or who should I blame, right? So both of them are around victimhood. And today it's about owning our own experience and realizing that we are the creators of it, that I am the creator of it. So, what makes feeling enough so different and so elusive? I can definitely relate to the idea of having a fairly low sense of self-worth, which I covered up with drugs and alcohol. I mean, I covered up in other ways, right? Being gay, being a young gay man when I grew up in the 80s, 70s and 80s, it was not highly regarded as what, men really aspired to be. So, that alone was very challenging. And in fact, there's another book, and I didn't get a chance to really research, go back to find it, but it's written by a psychologist who studies gay men and their characteristics. And, most of us, we try and overcompensate in every other area of our life to make up for the idea that there's something horribly wrong with me because I'm gay. And, that's gradually changing in our society. And yet, if you look at the world's attitudes towards the LGBTQ communities, it's not a lot different than it's been for the past several hundred years. So, beliefs in unworthiness, narcissistic behavior, right? And just throw in there, comparison is a major joy killer. So, and yet I do it all the time. I recognize people that I think, wow, that person is, uh, yeah, not as good, and that person is, wow, so much better than I am, and that dialogue right there is so self-defeating. So we live in a world that's based in shame and blame. I'm broken and I'm a victim. So we got and as a result, most of us have uh, developed coping mechanisms that are all about numbing out. So we don't truly have to face our self-sabotaging behaviors that are the result of our feeling unworthy, believing we're not worth the good that we desire. And as a result, we end up with addiction. We end up wanting to escape, and we do that in just a multitude of ways. So here, out of Brene Brown's book, is the one, two, threes of shame. We all have it. We all have it. Yeah, we all have shame. And it's good. It's good to begin to recognize, yeah, I have patterns of behavior that are totally shame-based, and so does everybody else in my world. Shame is universal. It's one of the most primitive human emotions that we experience. The only people who don't experience shame lack the capacity for empathy and human connection, right? So uh, here's the choice: fess up to experiencing shame or admit that you're a sociopath. Yeah, quick note, this is the only time shame seems like a good option, right? So, two, we're all afraid to talk about shame. Oh my God, so much pain, emotional pain to talk about, especially when I have a low sense of self-worth, to talk about where I fall short and where my problems are and how I sabotage myself and the worst part of me, to talk about that when I already struggle with believing I'm worthy is challenging. It's gut-wrenching. The less we talk about shame, the more control it has over our lives. The more I try and hide it, cover it up, numb it, the more control it has. The more I'm empowering it to just make my life more difficult and more miserable. Helpful ways to think about shame. Shame is the fear of disconnection. We are psychologically, emotionally, cognitively, and spiritually hardwired for connection, love, and belonging. Connection's two expressions, love and belonging, is what gives purpose and meaning to our lives. Shame is the fear of disconnection. It's the fear that something we've done, failed to do, makes us unworthy of connection. Here's the research definition of shame. Um, it's the intensely painful feeling of experience of believing that we are flawed and therefore unworthy of love and belonging. Shame categories, and this is where it really starts to really hit home. Appearance, body image, and in the gay community, man, it's all about, having a body that everybody wants, money and work. Again, gay community, man, and all of us. I'm not going to relate all this to the gay community because it relates to everybody. But yeah, the more money we have, the better we feel about ourselves, right? Motherhood, fatherhood. We could talk about that all day. Family, parenting. Wow. The mistakes we made as parents, um, is so shame-based. Mental, physical health, addiction, sex, sexuality, aging, religion, surviving trauma, being stereotyped or labeled, all categories of shame. And here's some examples of my own experiences with shame: getting fired, being laid off, declaring bankruptcy, hiding that I'm in recovery, raging at my parents, my boss calling me an idiot in front of my coworkers, not making the cut, getting a DUI, lying about my family to avoid embarrassment, internet porn, almost flunking out of school. You know, those are a reality. And there's so much more subtle shame-based behaviors. I tell you, in order to deal with the discomfort of all of the tasks that I have on my schedule, the to-do list, by chips and queso, let's see, goldfish, Cheez-Its, those are things that I overindulge in order to numb myself, in order to get myself to where I can sit in a chair for an uncomfortable period of time to get the work done that needs to get done. So on the other side of the shame, there is what's Brene Brown calls shame resilience. And here's four elements of shame resilience, or what um, Brene calls gremlin ninja warrior training. These are seen in people with high levels of shame resilience. First, shame resilience is the ability to practice authenticity. When we experience shame, to move through the experience without sacrificing our values and to come out the other side of the shame experience with more courage, compassion, and connection um, than we had going into it. So, I'm going to give you uh, yeah, owning my own stuff, owning my own shit. So, and at my job, we have a number of reports. Now, when I do something in the airplane that's a mistake, it wasn't done the way it was supposed to, or, something went wrong, but it was corrected. Those are things that the company gives us the opportunity to self-report. And the reality is there is recording equipment on the aircraft that can actually record everything that's happened and everything that goes on, every switch, every conversation is all recorded, and the company will get notification of certain things that happened in the airplane. And some of them, most of them, they will call and ask, what happened? Can you explain this situation? Well, the best way to handle it is to report it right after it happened, called self-reporting. What happened, what I did, and what the outcome was, right? Now, from someone who has issues with shame, it's a little tough to be writing reports about how I screwed up, right? And yet, I just had to do one last week. And, once it's finished, I feel so different. I feel so much better. I feel so much stronger, so much clearer, so much capable of doing a better job next time. And that's the whole purpose. Shame resilience is about moving from shame to empathy. The real antidote to shame is empathy. When we share our story and someone who responds with empathy and understanding, the shame can't survive. Self-compassion is critically important because shame is a social concept. It happens between people and it heals between people. The social wound needs a social balm. Empathy is that balm. Self-compassion is key because being gentle with ourselves, we're more likely to reach out and connect and experience empathy. So here's four elements. Recognizing shame and understanding its triggers. Shame is biological and biographical. Can I physically recognize when I'm in the grip of shame? Feel my way through it and figure out what message and expectations triggered it. Practicing critical awareness. Can I do a reality check? Check the messages and the expectations that are driving me, that are driving my shame. Are they realistic, attainable? Are they what I want to be or what I think others need or want from me? Reaching out. Am I owning and sharing my story? I can't experience empathy if I'm not connecting. And for speaking shame, am I talking about it, how I feel? Am I talking about how I feel and my ability? And am I asking for what I need when I feel shame? I'm going to give you a little example with that. Ramon and I have started to do a practice, and I did it when I was preparing this talk, and it's two jars. Ramon has one, I have one, and we have also two little dishes that have a bunch of marbles in it. And Brene discusses in her book practice that she taught her daughter with this when she was struggling with girls in high school. And Ramon and I have been together 6 years, but we're very different people. We're about as opposite as we could possibly be. And therefore, there's a lot of things that we each do that can be really challenging for each other to accept and to live around. Um, we can get to that point where we think, okay, maybe it's time to move out, maybe it's time to separate. And it doesn't happen very often, but every once in a while. And when we were just moving into this new house, it was rough at first, there was a lot of work to be done, a lot of choices to be made, a lot of um, opinions and preferences that came up that caused us to see our differences and focus too much on those. So this practice is that every time that somebody does something that feels compassionate or connecting or kind, you put a marble from the dish into the jar, and over time, um, you know, we begin to accumulate marbles in the jar, right? And then if someone does something that's uh, shame-based, blaming, um, judging, something that is, unkind, we take a marble out of the jar and put it back in the dish. So I explained this to Ramon, and the first thing he did, he's so intuitive, is he took the jar, the dish with all the marbles, and he dumped it all into the jar. He says, "Will, you're a kind person. You're like the most kind person I've met." He says, "So I'm just going to pull a marble out whenever you do something that I feel is unkind, and I'll put it back in the dish." Which there we go. We're just very different, but yet it worked. It works, right? Now, he sat down and we had this discussion just the other night about how, to do that in front of another person, to say, I'm pulling a marble out of this jar for that, is shame-based. And, and this is a practice that's to help each of us individually to better see that the majority of who we are and our experiences of each other is so much filled with kindness and empathy and compassion. And that there's just that few things that happen that we tend to put our focus on, too much attention on, that aren't what we're really looking for. So, in addition to understanding shame, we have to understand the flip side. What do people who are the most shame resilient, who believe in their worthiness? These are what Brene Brown call the wholehearted. What do the wholehearted have in common? So here's the gifts out of her book, The Gifts of Imperfection. She defines 10 guideposts for wholehearted living. These points to what the wholehearted work to cultivate, what they work to let go of. I'm going to go through these pretty quick. Cultivating authenticity means letting go of what people think. Cultivating compassion, self-compassion, letting go of perfectionism. Cultivating resilient spirit, letting go of numbing and powerlessness. Cultivating gratitude and joy, letting go of scarcity and the fear of the dark. Cultivating intuition, trust, and faith, letting go of the need for certainty. Cultivating creativity, letting go of comparison, sorry. um, Cultivating play and rest, letting go of exhaustion as a status symbol, and productivity as a sense of self-worth. Oof, I relate to that one. Cultivating calm stillness, letting go of anxiety as a lifestyle. Cultivating meaningful work, letting go of self-doubt and what we're supposed to be. Cultivating laughter, song, and dance, letting go of being cool and always in control. So, perfect and bulletproof are seductive and do not exist in the human experience. Rather than sitting on the sidelines, hurling judgment and advice, we must dare to show up and let ourselves be seen. This is vulnerability. This is daring greatly. Wholehearted living is about engaging in our lives from a place of wholeness, worthiness. No matter what, I am enough. Vulnerability is the core, the heart, the center of all meaningful experiences. For many years, I've struggled with areas of my own self-identity. Today, living wholeheartedly requires I develop a belief in my self-worth and that it outweighs any consequences of living authentically in all my relationships. I love you all. I bless you all. And so it is.